I find Norma's wisdom to be really profound because it's always changing. She learns, she adapts, and she shares with people. This is amazing because that's what really a great teacher, a great leader does. I find her exciting and informative and helpful, very helpful for these times, 2022. This is September. Welcome. We're living at a time like no other on planet Earth. Spiritual, physical, metaphysical, insights, wisdom, challenges. We're more connected by technology and less connected to each other. We're all seeking answers, and we're often too busy to listen for the truth. Her story and his story and our story. I research, I question, I look for answers to share with you, exploring higher visions. Authors and publishers and creatives, all bringing us their empowerment tools, their insights. And I'm mining for those gems of wisdom. In these podcasts, we'll delve into the tears of sorrow, joy, awe, anger and overwhelm, the challenges, the triumphs of life. What works for some people and might work for you. We share the fiery energy of transformation, healing, inspiration, and lots of revelations. I am Catherine Whalen Costin, an author, an artist, a storyteller, a podcast producer and host. I'm a fellow human sharing this journey of life with you on the planet at this time. Let's chat. Let's explore. Hello, it's Catherine. Welcome to another CWCArtandSoul.com. Emphasis on the soul this week. I'm talking to a wonderful, wise woman, Norma Cowie. Norma Cowie is a psychic, intuitive, spiritual teacher, metaphysical expert. She's been doing her work in metaphysical realms and spiritual realms for many years. And so she has books that are available on her website. She has several different programs on her YouTube channel, which I'll leave the link in the description box. NormaCowie.com is her main website where you can get all kinds of information. She is now doing 4 shows actually, I think she mentioned. And they're all just sharing information, her wisdom, helping people to navigate this difficult time. And so today, really, we touched on 4 main topics. Shifting into the 5D from the 3D. Are we doing that? How's it happening? What's going on with Mother Earth? What does she have to say? And she has access to that information, which was very helpful. We also talked about the Akashic Records, what that means for you, how to look at them, how she looks at them versus some other people. Thirdly, a big part of it was the sense that this is an emotional planet. And what does that mean? We're talking emotions, feelings, fear, what happens when we suppress it or express it, or how that's happening. We really talked around all of that and how that is affecting us in the world today. And fourthly, which is really important, is something she does now called mental mind treatments. And I wanted to find out more about what she's doing there. Thank you for joining us. Like I said, I'll put all the links below, and you can go to the CWCArtandSoul.com as well to see a list of podcasts previous and what's coming in the future. Look at new art pieces and my new fall fashions that are coming out, trickling out bit by bit, and I'm very excited to be able to share them with you. So let's get into this chat with Norma Cowie right now. So thank you so much, Norma, for joining me today on CWC Art and Soul as we explore metaphysical, spiritual, whatever pops up for us. It's always an interesting conversation. So thank you so much for giving us your time and wisdom.
It is always my pleasure. to be with you and spend time talking with you. So I am delighted, I should say, to be here.
But you are delightful. And so you're just saying the truth. You are delightful. Well, I want to start, sort of give a little context to what things that have been on my mind. There's a lot of talk about the planet is raising her vibration. She is shifting into the fifth dimension, letting go of the third dimension. And so it's a matter of whether humanity is going to raise our vibration to be able to continue with her or not. Do you subscribe to that philosophy?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I hear a lot of things of what people say the planet is doing or is supposed to be doing or whatever. But over the years, what I've done when I've been unsure is go down and talk to what I call the Earth Mother myself. And I find that a lot of people, put onto the earth where they are, not what the earth, where the earth is. And I've only said this to a few people, but a little while ago, again, I was hearing all sorts of things about, the trauma that's coming from the earth and this and that and the other. And so I went down and I had a chat to the Earth Mother. And I'm trying to think how long ago this was, maybe 6 months. And I said to her, because many times, I should explain something here. Many times I have gone, I don't live down there, but every now and again I go down and I have this conversation. And always the answers have been accurate. I've checked something out and they've been accurate. So I went down this time and I said, they're saying that there's going to be, what are you doing about what's going on or what's happening? And can't remember the exact words, but basically what I got was nothing will occur from me at that time it was 2.5 years. So let's say 2 years from now. And then I have had, when I've channeled several years ago, I was through the channeling, it came to in an answer to one of the people that were participating in this question was about the end of things. And they talked about how do you leave the planet? In other words, we know that the soul keeps reincarnating. We reincarnate and reincarnate. So how do we get off, kind of thing? And I've always said it's when you can deal with every feeling and emotion that you have. In other words, you're not in an emotional block. Then you evolve to the point you're free to leave. But as long as you're tied into the emotionality, and which means really not being connected to the love source that this planet is about, you get stuck here. And anyway, in the channeling, it was, it said, and I'll tell you how the way I saw it was a dog coming out of a lake and shaking and all the water. And then what they were saying while I was seeing this was that every now and again, and apparently 5 times previous, the earth shakes or rolls or whatever you want to call it, and souls are leaving. Well, you can imagine it's chaos when that happens. If you read the Robes, I think it's called, by Penny Kelly, what you'll find, she says the same thing in there.
Wow.
Because I held this for a long time, just from this little circle that we did. And then my son, Christmas, gave, and she said, there's a piece in there that says what you say. And not that I've said a lot of it, but he was my son, so I, say things. And sure enough, that's where I got the 5 times.
Wow.
So when we talk about going into the 4th or the 5th dimension or movement or change, yes, there is, in a sense, there's changes happening. But you see, what people tend to do is they put onto the Mother Earth where they're feeling or what they kind of experience. They don't go deep and they don't go talk to her. They don't really talk to her.
That reminds me of something else that humans do and have done for a long time. The patriarchy is founded on this personification of God. Making God in our image, when we've been very clearly told that we are made in the image and likeness of God, not the other way around. But we're always trying to put human personality traits on either, God, the earth, animals. We do it to everything. It seems like it's a transference or projection. If I feel this way, you must be. I remember my mom doing that to me with my kids when newborns, and she'd say, "You should put a sweater on him. I'm cold." She did, and I said, okay, Mom, why don't you put a sweater on? Because he's like this was my first one, and he was like a firecracker. He was never cold. And so it was
Babies usually aren't cold
but
when
she
we're
didn't
cold.
realize exactly, like she said it, and then I looked at her, yeah, okay, Mom, but that's not that's not true. So we're doing this to, maybe to try to understand or make sense of stuff we don't understand, is to turn it into something from human. But you pointed out something which was also something I want to talk about, because you have talked about this. I know we've talked about this on previous shows we've done together, but about this being an emotional planet. And
Right.
you're saying that, when she does her shake off, maybe it frees more of us, but on a regular basis, we have to feel all the emotions. And there's a lot of history of us being taught the opposite, not to show our emotions. You're talking about all of the emotions. You're talking about the
Well,
anger, the fear, the
yes.
happiness, everything. Feel it, know it.
Well, I differentiate between feelings and emotion. The way I teach this is that feelings is your body's way of telling you what it's feeling, like what's going on. So when the feeling sort of comes upon you, what we need to be able to do is acknowledge it, and usually that means by naming what it is. If it's anger or frustration or fear or anxiety or whatever. But when we repress it, it becomes an emotion, and there's no movement. You see, energy moves. It's like any healer will tell you what, if you're whether
Yeah.
you're Reiki or hands-on healer, whatever. There's many different modalities, but that we want the energy moving. And so the same thing is with us. It's like in our blood. Let's just take our blood for a moment. We need movement in the blood. When the blood isn't moving, we're in trouble, right? So think of that. That's just energy, an element of energy. And so when we have a feeling come up, I had just the other day, have something happen that I had to really grope with for a wee while. And because I know to repress and to deny will mean more troubles further down the road. So it's like really to be able to be present in what you're feeling and allowing it inside to be able, and if you can name it, better, because then that feeling feels heard and it subsides. But emotions, when you've repressed and repressed, why you feel angry is because usually I find I have a whole pattern about that, is that we either feel sad or mad, I call it the sad and mad, because underneath we're feeling helpless. It's all about helplessness. And then we can go even further and deeper and down. But it's like really recognizing that we're not helpless and that there's always information there if we would look or ask.
Yeah, that feeling of powerlessness, like
Yes.
I've lost my power. When someone dies, I didn't have the ability to keep them here. Or when something happens to someone you love, I wasn't able to prevent it. So I'm sad. I feel sad because I feel like I should have been able to control
Yeah.
the one thing we have no control over, life. What we think. We
Uh,
so we feel.
It sounds like a lot of over responsibility.
Yeah.
Like we're not responsible for any other, like we're only responsible for our responses, actually, how we're responding. And when we're feeling responsible, that puts a lot of pressure on you and that's where the guilt comes in. I've had to do a lot around guilt. And it's like when the guilt comes in, and so I'm a big advocate for self-forgiveness and have spent at times months working on forgiving myself through all time. But it's like really recognizing that by connecting to what I call the love first, about the patriarchal Christian element, or most religions actually, they have you feel guilty because you're not perfect. But what's perfect? We're humans having an emotional experience and being taught not to feel emotions. Just do as you're told. This is what you're supposed to do. What do you mean you don't want to do that? No. Like talk about, well, we don't really want to talk about strong, but that is not growth. That is not growth.
No, and it's interesting because I was thinking about this the other day about guilt and failure. We often feel guilty when we have failure. We translate that to guilt. But I was thinking about that. I thought, how do we know what if we accept the fact we're more than our bodies, we're spirit, we're souls, we've got, we come here for something, for a purpose of whether we were sent here, we choose, whatever it is, we had some kind of an idea before we came. So how can we possibly know what failure is? How do we know we failed at anything when in fact we don't know? Like, it's like if I'm running down the road and I don't get to a certain destination, did I fail? What if that wasn't the destination? What if there was another place along the road? How do I know I failed ever? How do I know I failed? What you go through 20 years of marriage and you decide to go your separate ways. Was there a failure? What did you fail at? You did 20 years with one person in this life and then you moved on. Reasons why it broke up and all those kinds of things. Or you went on a different path. It's like you're walking down the road together and one of you went one way and one of you went the other. Did one of you fail? Where is failure? Why do we have even that concept that we failed when we actually don't know the agenda? We don't know what were we supposed, and I just like to take failure right out of the whole darn thing, because it's like watching a child get up, fall down, learning to walk, get up, fall down. Are they a failure? I mean, it's so interesting to me.
Well, let's look at this. Whenever you consider your failure, you're making judgments. So where are you getting the judgments from? And who is giving you the judgments to say that you're failed? And so then, as because we were talking about guilt a moment ago, is that what ends up happening is we perceive that judgment from whether it's from society or self against something. So again, there's a judgment. And very often, if people are on a spiritual line, that there's a lot of judgment about being perfect. But who says what is perfect?
Yeah, that's what it's
so it's like if you're very clear of how you feel and where you're at and what you want to do, you may not be able to create. I experienced starting several businesses that never went anywhere, but were they failures? I just didn't figure out how to work them. And so it's again that self-forgiveness element to be able to move on further. But you probably learned all of those carried to today where I could use that experience.
I was going to say, you probably gained some experience, some insight, and even the fact that you said, oh, I never could figure it out. Well, you probably went in a different direction then. You probably chose something else. So it was a stepping stone. It might even have been sometimes I call those spacers. Because you thought, because we got this thing about being busy and doing stuff. So I'm working on this, which happens to be not my thing. And so it doesn't work out. And then all of a sudden, when the time was just right, the thing that is shows up.
That's right. That's exactly what happened in my life and what has happened. And I just happened to have a life that was up and down in lots of ways, like did very well, lost everything. You'd mentioned 20 years of marriage. I had 24 and then gone. And it's really being in the moment. It's being present. I think the final result is that you become present. And if it's not suitable for you, you choose what you want to do about it. But it's,
So is guilt tied to the emotion? Is guilt
judgment?
The guilt
is tied to the judgment that you didn't do what you were supposed to do.
And then that
or
becomes,
that you like I work with a lot of people with you know, the Akashic Records at times in a lot of the transformation work I do. And I know we've talked about this before. And very often what happens is because of the people feeling they failed, maybe, or the guilt or the regret, they just keep recreating and recreating and recreating similar scenarios that put them in the same place. How come we do that? We do that in this life. We do that, and we look at a variety of lives. But when we're looking at Akashic Records for a moment, people actually had this said to me the other day. Boy, every time someone's looked at my Akashic Records, they've been great and wonderful. And I said, but you forget that I'm looking at them to find what is blocking you and what you need to release. And it was like, you know, it was like, I went, oh, yeah, I see the yucky parts, the parts that you've either done something or you made a decision that hasn't been a great decision for your soul, we'll say. And clearing those gives the person a bigger avenue to be able to go ahead and create in this life more happiness and being in the present. But the interesting thing for me is that often they don't want to let go of those big, deep decisions they made. It's like they take solace somewhere, even if they didn't know what they were. It's like they've heard it, I've explained it. I say, okay, we're going to clear this out, and we do self-forgiveness about that. And but I find that they may say the words, but they don't feel the words. So I've been working a little bit on that a little bit more.
yeah,
But
sometimes
it's,
we
you
can
know,
get attached to these labels we've, like I call them war medals that we wear that are, it's just silly. Like all that does is weigh down one side of your chest, you know, like it's like, you know, I got all these medals because I did all this.
right.
Where's the celebration? But you know, it's interesting. It's like people are looking at the Akashic Records. Some people are looking at it like a fully baked cake. Oh, there it is. It's a cake. It's chocolate. I can see that. You're looking at it to see if what it tastes like, what was in it, what's the ingredients inside of it. And it turns out it wasn't chocolate after all. It just looked like it on the outside, and it wasn't actually fully baked. It's all gushy inside. So it's the difference between looking at, you know, a surface thing and looking at, let's go into this deeper, which is pretty cool. I mean, you have a
Right.
gift. You have so many
Oh,
gifts.
it took me years in leading, being led, I always think, into a place of understanding. But I do want to say this. I have a gal I know very well, not well enough to say a friend, but close, who is an incredible Akashic record reader that has helped many, many people by explaining things. My job is very different. My job is looking at your life and clearing the blocks that you have and creating whatever it is you want. So what do we find mostly? What I find is that trust and faith is gone, that we also we don't trust ourselves, we don't trust the universe, we don't trust too much of anything. We find anger and frustration, a lot of things, which you could say go into that. But there's certain things that I find, loving yourself. I like to usually do one session around loving self. Where are the blocks that stop you loving yourself? It's amazing where they hold it, you know, where you take on and just don't appreciate who you are and what you've been through space and times. And then a lot of it right now, one of the things I'm running to a lot with my tarot clients is everybody is so fearful that they're scared to make a move. This fear thing that's being
But that is,
indoctrinated with
yeah,
everything.
and that is such a prevalent energy on the planet right now, and
Oh,
it's being used. It's being used against us. It's being used in
I'm
marketing. It's being
massive.
used. You know, it's the propaganda
Everywhere.
machine. Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, it is
But
totally.
so that kind of is, it's interesting because I kind of have two questions here. But one is, it's kind of interesting to me is, you go back 100 years, people weren't asking these questions. People weren't looking at finding people like you to look at Akashic records. Maybe we didn't even know what they were. I don't know how long ago people started to understand these things. I mean, your work, you've been doing this for a long time, but I'm talking way back. Like
No, I get
now
that.
we're in 2022, people are doing energy work and Reiki and exploring astrology deeper than they ever had, the tarot, the Akashic Records, the past lives, do you like more people? I'm not saying people never did before, but I mean, is it the internet that's made it so that people can get the information, or why are we even, and even if the information was there, didn't mean people would pursue it, but there's something going on that's making people want to let go of this weight, is how I feel.
First of all, I want to refer you. You've got to look into the Eastern philosophies for what you're talking about. They did all that. India was known for that. Many of the other cultures, Buddhism, that not so much. Buddhism is a different little bit of a way, but many of the other religions, we'll say, or philosophies, covered all that and did tremendous energy things, and maybe not to the awareness that maybe we have, but they were there. So we've got to acknowledge that they were there. We lived in a very, I'm going to call it European, you're very much patriotic, like the the man ruled, whoever was in rule, whether it was a king or what, if it was your little town, the mayor, the lord, or whatever ruled.
And so, the Christian, strong Christian, very strong.
I was just going to say, do not overlook then the raising of, first of all, Catholicism, which then separated in many, many ways, of which I remember years ago I was studying how that all came around.
Yeah.
And as people rebelled against that. And I think a large part of what's happening, and actually in some ways it saddens me, because what has gone on with their rigidity and their need to control is that people have lost the desire, except if it really grows inside you, like it was with me, to figure out what this God thing was all about.
Why now? And that was my question: was why now are people more?
Yeah. Okay. So why now are we doing? Why now we're changing? We're changing because we're being. I almost from the outside. It's like if you have something that's being a balloon that you're squishing inside. We're being squished from the outside. So we've been given a lot of freedom. And I'm talking about the Western world. I'm not talking about some of the other cultures, but the Western world. We've been given a certain degree of freedom. And we enjoyed that. Like, I really got upset when the canceling and the censorship and everything began to happen. Like, oh, hey, I thought we were living in a democratic society. What happened? And so a lot of the thing is the pressure of what's happening. So people will always go to look for logical explanations as to what's happening. But because a lot of people do not have access to realize what's really happening, they have, I think, a lot of things happening. Okay, we've got the people into the ETs, I'm not denying they're there. I do know they're there. But I remember one time, a couple of years ago, said to me, "Oh, don't have any worries. The ETs will come and take care of us all." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, in my life, if I'm having a hard time, I have to take care of it. I have to figure it out. I have to sort it out. So this whole thing about giving your power away to the expert or to the element. One of the things I realized in my life, I never went for power over. I realized there's three types of power: power over, power under, and power with. I wanted to have power with. And yes, as a teacher or as a leader, there are certain things you do, but at the same time, you've also got to listen to the people. You've got to give them what to a degree they're looking for, or what they want or not. Because I didn't fit everybody's mode, because I'm not telling them what they have to do. I would say what would be, from my perspective, maybe the best to do.
And thank you so much for joining us. That was a great chat with Norma Cowie, as always, and I am grateful for her time and her wisdom and her sharing with us. And I hope you enjoyed it too. Please comment in the comment below if you're on YouTube. Let me know what you thought. Like, share, subscribe, help me grow the channel. I'm going to be splitting the channel a little bit to more talking about fashion and art in different ways, and continuing with some of the metaphysical aspects as well. So it's going to be a broader channel, let's say. And you can let me know also if you think it would be better if I just put the art and fashions on a different channel altogether, if you would prefer it that way. If I get a lot of feedback that way, I might start a second channel. So in the meantime, thanks so much and have an awesome day. Take care. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for subscribing or following, liking, and sharing the podcast. It helps me grow this channel and hopefully reaches more people with an empowering message. It's always nice to know there is wisdom out there and you can tap into it. Visit the website for more information on how to be a guest, see the guest list and future shows and topics. And while you're there, I invite you to browse my acrylic art pieces on canvas and wood. They make an amazing home decor, high vibe art. And you'll also find the link to my storefront for luxurious women's fashions and home decor, created and designed by me with my art and manufactured in Montreal, Canada by Le Galeriste. It is an awesome time to be on the planet and have these choices. So I invite you to explore and see if there is something there for you. Until next time, take care.